Have you ever looked around and realized that being kind has made you tired? Not just in your body, but in your soul? You give, you listen, you show up. But somewhere along the way, your kindness began to feel more like a quiet weight you carry every day. If you're over 65 like me, maybe you've also felt it, that moment when being nice starts to cost more than it gives back. You're not angry, you're not bitter, but you're starting to wonder, why does being kind always leave you so drained? This is my story. A story about letting go, not of people, but of patterns. And it begins with noticing a small ache inside me every time I hung up the phone or walked away from a certain kind of conversation. The people who always had something wrong, something to vent about. People who seemed to live under a gray sky, and no matter how much sunshine you tried to bring, the storm never cleared. They never asked how I was doing. Never paused to check if I had the energy to listen. They just called, talked, unloaded, and for years, I thought listening was the kind thing to do. But then I noticed something. When the call ended, I didn't feel lighter. I felt heavier. I wasn't being kind. I was absorbing their unhappiness, and it was costing me my peace. So I stopped answering every time. I didn't explain or argue. I just quietly chose myself. And it was the first time in years that I felt like I could breathe again. Then there were the ones who never raised their voices, never acted cruel, but somehow always got their way. They were full of compliments. You're the only one who understands. No one else is as patient as you. At first it felt nice, flattering even. But over time I began to realize those words weren't praise, they were pressure. I had a cousin who was especially skilled at this. Every request was sandwiched between warmth and charm. He made me feel needed, and for a while that was enough. Until I realized I was rescheduling appointments, canceling plans, and pushing aside my own priorities just to help him. Again, that's when it hit me. I wasn't helping because I wanted to. I was helping because I felt guilty not to. That's not kindness. That's emotional manipulation. So I started to say no, softly at first, awkwardly. But I said it, and I learned something powerful. Healthy people respect your boundaries. Manipulative people test them. When I chose clarity over guilt, I found something better than approval. I found peace. And then there were the people who only remembered me when they needed something. They never called just to say hello, never asked how I was. But when they had a problem, suddenly they knew exactly where to find me. At first I didn't mind. Maybe I liked feeling useful. Maybe I convinced myself that it was love in disguise. But the truth became clearer with time. They didn't want a relationship. They wanted a solution, and I was the easiest one to ask. I had a neighbor like this. He never stopped by just to talk. It was always a favor, a ride, a loan, a tool he forgot to return. And when I stopped saying yes, he stopped showing up. That told me everything. Real friends care about your heart, not just your help. I stopped giving to those who only came around when they were in need. And what I gained in return was space. Space for people who called just to say, "How are you?" Looking back, I don't regret being kind. I don't regret giving. What I regret is staying too long in places where my kindness was never respected. I regret thinking that saying no made me selfish. That pulling back made me cold. I wish I'd known earlier that kindness without boundaries isn't noble. It's a slow kind of self-neglect. Now at 74, I protect my peace like it's sacred. Because it is. And I've learned that when you finally stop giving your energy to people who don't value it, something beautiful happens. You start to feel alive again. If you've always been the reliable one, the listener, the helper, I want to tell you, you're allowed to stop. You're allowed to be kind without being constantly available. You're allowed to say no without explaining. And if someone walks away because you stopped bending, let them. The people who truly care won't ask you to sacrifice your well-being just to stay in their good graces. They'll understand. They'll support you. They'll love you for who you are, not just what you can do. So if you're over 65 like me, and you've carried the weight of politeness, guilt, and people-pleasing for decades, it's not too late to lay it down. Not in anger, not in revenge, but in peace. Because that's what you deserve. Peace that doesn't depend on anyone else's approval. Kindness that includes yourself. And the kind of love that doesn't ask you to shrink in order to receive it.